Evan Mathis, man, I'm really excited to have you here. Really, thank you for jumping on this podcast called Intangibles. This is something that I really started to really enjoy doing, talking about what are these pieces that make you who you are. So welcome to the Intangible podcast.
Hey, man, it's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah.
Someone like you called me instantly,
Yeah.
Man, where do we meet? Was it like
Actually, man, that's actually where we went. Go all the way back to 05 draft. Met at the combine.
Known each other for 20 years.
Yeah, I know. Crazy, man.
It's crazy.
20 years.
20 years.
I literally just having a conversation with somebody last night driving back from Auburn. And we was talking about my 05. And I was just like, man, wait a minute. It's 20 years.
Now go back to 05 and think about what was 20 years before that.
I can't.
And that puts it in perspective. I mean, wait, we were 2, 3, 4 years old?
Yeah. I mean, you go back that far, you're like, crisscross would make you jump. I'm like...
Even before that.
I know, it's crazy.
Because
that was in the early 90s. So, but man, it's so great to sit down with guys that you've known that long and also unveil some of the things that you really didn't know about them. So I'm really excited to jump into your story, the things that has made you who you are. You've gone from, being a Pro Bowl guard, but you've gone from being a journeyman to being a Pro Bowl guard, which is pretty impressive. But before we jump into that, I want to go back to growing up in Alabama. Right next to me.
Yeah.
Tell me about your upbringing, your family. What was that like?
So I look back on my childhood and I mean, it was, it's the only childhood I knew, right? It was my experience. So, and I was just, I was so grateful for it. I was a happy kid. I have a younger brother who's 2.5 years younger than me. My parents were, I guess if you wanted to label it, we were like lower middle class, where like just they're working all day every day just to make ends meet. Yeah. Right? They worked their ass off. I learned a lot about the work ethic and what they were willing to do for their family just by seeing that. And also that was one of the things that was like making me see that I need to find a way to do something where I'm not stuck in this system, working all day to get nowhere.
Yeah.
I mean, not necessarily nowhere, but like I wanted to do an experience and be able to do whatever I wanted. And you can't really do that if you are barely making ends meet. So that was like, that kind of put a drive in me. But my parents did a really good job of that. I had everything I wanted. I didn't want much, but like if I wanted something, I really just, had to ask for it and they would find a way to make it happen. It was never anything crazy, get me a Nintendo or a game or a comic book or some baseball cards or something like that. The school system I would have been in was one that was kind of like lower rated academically if I stayed there. So they made the move to Homewood, Alabama to get it. They did a lot of research, made the move to Homewood to get us in a better academic school system. And Homewood's still like one of the top rated schools. And I think that did a lot for me too. Living in both those places we had a pretty good mix of culture. Yeah. It was almost a melting pot of people where it wasn't like too far one way or the other. So there was a lot of, you got to experience people who were from, just different cultures, different upbringings, different homes. And I think that helped do a lot with my development by being exposed to those types of people and mirroring them and learning from them and things like that. I was a pure product of my environment. Both my parents went to Alabama, so it was like, I was an instant Alabama fan. And when you growing up in Alabama, it's, there's no professional teams there, and sports are probably a little bit higher than religion or politics there. Yeah. It's like you're Alabama and you're Auburn, and people invest their heart, soul, emotions, and pride and ego all into it.
Yeah.
And it was so interesting to like observe that as a kid. I'm like, these people are like, they're like, it's like there was like true hate amongst a lot of it. Like, like it was like it was.
Did you hate Auburn?
No, I wasn't that kind of person to ever really understand that. Yeah. Like, and the same thing with politics. I never understood this side all believes in one thing, and that side believes all these other things, and y'all can't work together. Like, it's just this other kind of thing where it's like division didn't make sense to me. But I would step up for it and know the impact that it had and how important it was to show up and show out in that game, and sometimes even feel too much pressure from it just being your rival.
Yeah. Right.
It was it's almost like a marketing thing or something. Really, I felt like I was in the WWF or something, like the way they hyped that up. But like, and going back to like when I was getting recruited, I was playing all these scenarios in my head. Like, what if I don't get a scholarship to Alabama, but what if Auburn does offer me a scholarship? You know, do I go to Auburn out of spite, being like to prove something to Alabama? Or in the end, like I wasn't telling anybody, but in the end, like in the middle of the whole thing, before I really had any offers, I was like, you know what? No matter what, I'm just going to go walk on to Alabama and make it happen.
Even with a scholarship.
Even with a scholarship, that's how loyal I was going to be to the vision that I had for where I was going. In ninth grade, our ninth or 10th grade, our English teacher had us do a writing session one day, and it was just like, you know, sit in the class all day, and you're just going to write out what are you going to do with your life? And I was like, oh yeah, I think it was ninth grade. And the things I wrote out was like, I'm going to make all A's in high school. I'm going to go to the University of Alabama to play football. I'm going to play tight end. I'm also going to play baseball. Then I'm going to go either to the major leagues or NFL. And I'm going to retire when I'm 30 and never work again. That was the lens through which I saw the world in ninth grade.
And it turned out and it worked out for you.
Some of it did. Yeah. Some of it did. Yeah. There were these parts where, you know, I didn't retire when I was 30. I played a little longer than that. And then that never working again thing, that was like a product of, like I said, seeing my parents work so hard and me also, you know, being in systems where, like, when you're in school and you're playing sports, what is free time?
Yeah,
there's none.
Yeah,
there is none. Yeah. It's school all day. Yeah. It's sports, and then you're dead. Yeah. You're tired.
Even as a parent right now, there's no free time.
There's none. So when you get to the point where there is free time, it's like it's just bigger. Like what you do with it, you're in a passion, and it's like delayed gratification, and you're like really, really, really just grateful to be doing something that wasn't all this other stuff you've been doing. So that's kind of like put that programming in me. It was like, because my concept was like, I enjoy doing whatever I want to do.
Yeah.
I don't like being stuck working all day and in school and all this other stuff. So that was where that concept came from. But then like the work ethic just in me kept evolving, and I found just passions for creating and doing and putting my efforts into things that I like doing. Like if you can find a passion of a career that is a passion of yours, then there is no work.
Yeah.
You know, it charges you versus draining you.
Yeah. I think it's a balance now though, because you gotta make ends meet. So you got to figure out, you know, what is this job that I'm gonna do to make ends meet? But then also, how do I figure out what my passion is so I can use this job to springboard me to doing the thing that I'm passionate about. And so I think it's
a bridge for sure, because you're not going to be able to decide in the beginning, which is kind of like the paradox of college. It's like, hey, tell us when you're 17 or 18 what you want to do with your life. Like, well, I have no idea. I don't know anything about anything.
Well, apparently you knew back when you was in ninth grade.
Well, for football, football though. I literally had and I always told myself then too, I was like, I'm going to be able to make more money off the field than on it.
Yeah.
But I want to set myself up to be able to do whatever I want. So I'm going to focus on football. And I made good grades. I was great in school. I felt like I really could have done anything, but I didn't want to. And my first thing was like, I'm going to go be a psychiatrist or a psychologist.
Yeah. Right.
Before I was like, okay, let's play football. But then it's really all about exposure. Like you can't just, the more you learn, the more you're exposed to.
Yes.
And I love it. And let me even say this: in the version of me today it's not going to be who I am tomorrow.
Right.
So I might say things today that I think I know.
Yeah.
And tomorrow be willing to say I was wrong.
Yeah.
Right. I learned something new.
Right.
And that's something I've really embodied. Once I've started to do that and not get stuck on what I thought I knew.
Yeah.
You know, it makes learning, you become much more expansive because you're willing to learn, you're willing to be exposed to more. You're like these things like this, you're willing to be able to see the world through the lens of someone else, gathering perspectives.
Self-awareness.
Self-awareness,
you have become self-aware of yourself to know that I can say this today, but tomorrow with more research, more knowledge, I can say, you know what? I was wrong. And that becomes, when you're not self-aware, then you're not able to go there.
Right. And that's why I'm trying to get more and more where I meet people to like, because people can be drinking from a fire hose if I'm talking about something I'm passionate about. Yeah. So I'm trying to get to the point where I can like preface things to be like, hey, take what you want, leave the rest. Like the truest wisdom is knowing that we know nothing.
Making that transition from high school and going into college, not knowing, what was that experience like when you go from, going through the recruiting process, ego, all those different things, to now ended up in a place where you're at Alabama. What year was that? 2001?
So My freshman year was 2000. All right. So my senior year in high school.
Who was the head coach at that time?
Mike DeBose.
Mike DeBose.
So my senior year in high school, Alabama had just won the SEC championship. And they had, it was Sean Alexander at running back, Chris Samuels at left tackle. And they went on to the NFL, and those were like my idols, right? Like seeing them just, I'm in high school wanting to be in the NFL, wanting to go to Alabama, seeing these guys be superstars, looking up to them and everything. And when I get to Bama, we're preseason number 3 in the country. Big things are expected out of us. That my training camp, my freshman year, might have been one of the roughest times of my entire life. You had hazing back then, and we had freaking 3-a-days. We had 3-a-days.
So in Alabama, when it's 100 degrees outside,
the humidity was insane. August humidity in Alabama. Like I can go anywhere now, and I'm just like, this is nothing,
right?
Like because I've done the hardest things in almost literal hell. So like those 3, it's fun to talk about now because of just how laughably ridiculous it was, and they've done a lot now to be a lot more mindful of actually recovery,
getting some water.
Yeah, getting some water. Instead of waiting until you're a full body cramp and saying take these salt pills and drink all these Gatorades. But those 3 days were crazy. I remember like one of the first ones. I remember going back to the dorm room, being in my bed, being in a full body cramp, and just crying because I'm like my dream, my goal is sitting here is like NFL. And I'm stuck in this first week of something that how the hell am I going to make it through this? Like, what am I doing?
So now you're contemplating life, trying to figure out how do I survive that? How long did it take you to lock in mentally to say and how did your childhood growing up, that work ethic that you got that was able to get you over that hump to say, all right, I can do
was
this.
there. It was always there.
Yeah.
I've always had this relentless commitment and work ethic that once I set a path, I'm just gonna go for it, and until do or die.
Yeah,
just gonna do it. Yeah. And it's just there are moments of weakness like that in those, right? And those are.
I had one.
They did?
I did.
What was that like?
I called my mom and said, "Come get me."
Yeah, you did.
Yeah,
you did.
Yeah.
See those and that's something that in life I've also learned that when you're making important decisions, you need to be in like your right state of mind, mentally, physically. Like you can't be hungry, angry, lonely, tired, sad. Like you got to be present and process. Otherwise, there's like variables that you aren't solving for that are, you might be in your amygdala, you're in your reptilian brain, fight or flight, worst case scenario, and you're like, out of here, right? Yeah. Those aren't the times to make decisions. Yeah. And there's a lot, and in my life, I've made plenty of stupid decisions in those times, and the older I've gotten, I've learned that, okay, if I'm going to make something, especially if it's going to impact other people, and change the course of my life and other people's, it can't be done out of elevated emotion or fear or anything. It needs to be well thought out and logical.
How did you learn that skill set to be present?
Learning the skill set to be present is by just absolutely fucking up so many times. Just not so many times, just not making terrible decisions out of like, I was like kind of ragey. Like I was, normally I wasn't, but if I got like upset, I didn't have like a dial that was like kind of upset.
Yeah. So
mine was just max.
So we do a measure within our company called composure. Your composure score would have been really low.
Dude has no composure, and that was prevalent. That was really prevalent in my NFL career early on. Yeah. Like my emotional intelligence was very low.
Very low.
I was very feral.
Going through that, give me an example of what did that look like, and give me a story that you had low composure, but it taught you the most.
My rookie year, so I'm drafted in the 3rd round. And I was upset I wasn't in the 1st round. I really was. I was upset I wasn't, because I'm seeing other guys go, and I'm like, all right, who the Patriots going to take right here? Could be me. Could be me. Oh, they got Logan Mankins. And then the Packers at the combine, they were like, Evan, we love you. We are going to draft you. And the Packers had 2 picks in the 2nd round. And I'm like, I'm going to Green Bay. I know it. Nope. And then anyway, I get drafted in the 3rd round by the Panthers. And you're a 3rd round guard. You're expected to come in and do something.
Yes.
You are expected to come in and do something. Like I was the strongest player on the team. I was always like strong and fast and everything. And as smart as I think I was just like, I wasn't putting it together and my emotions were getting in the way. And my coach would just like talk to me really condescendingly, like just say like crazy things. But I was never the type of person just to be like, yes, sir, or like put my head down.
Yeah.
I would snap back and come over the top. And I don't think that set me up real well for trying to earn a starting job.
Right.
So we just had these blow ups. Even the next year when I became a starter, there's one time where I gave up a sack, and no one's going to be harder on me than myself. Mm-hmm. So I'm already over there beating up myself. And my coach starts kind of marching over, getting ready to like yell at me. And I just stand up and go off on him. Just like, I don't want, like, just like, I was just, like I've said, is it that dial, but composure? No composure, none.
Yeah.
No composure.
You've been very open about your life and a lot of different things. Was there anything that other than just having low composure that was contributing to you just like flying off the handle?
Actually, there was. In 2007, when I started training for the combine, I was training in Scottsdale, Arizona at a place called EK Performance. This guy named Chad EK. He's from Hawaii, and he was like an Olympic lifter, and he was a really good trainer. He would push you harder than anybody ever pushed you in the weight room. It's kind of like the way he explained it. He was like, he'll like run you to the cliff, and right when you're falling off, he'll grab you and pull you back. Inside of his gym, there was a naturopathic doctor. Mm-hmm. I still work with this guy today. His name's Dr. Brian Papil. And he took labs, like blood draws. Right. So we start taking these labs, and he would be like, okay, it looks like you need to eat this or take these supplements to kind of, balance anything, or take some vitamin D because it looks like you're deficient in that, and that can cause this and this. And start like, this is one of those things where it's like the exposure just opened up a whole new world for me. And I'm just like, because I'm a big data guy. The more comprehensively I can see something, I'm going to be connecting more dots, and I'm going to be, especially when it's the vehicle that we're in. Like if you got a nice car or any car at all, you're gonna, you got to make sure there's air in the tires. You got to take care of your oil. You get like, if you're not looking inside of this vehicle, mm-hmm. wake up, wake up.
Yes.
So seeing that, I'm like, okay, cool. So we're watching this trend. And then it was about 2007 or so, my testosterone went to the gutter. So I'm like just below the reference range. And if I was a little bit higher, I would have been like normal for an 80-year-old man.
Yeah. And
so I go to the Panthers, and they don't teach you anything about this in the NFL either. There are protocols and things in place that they need to educate people on. And for me, I went to the Panthers and I was like, hey, I've got low testosterone. What can we do about this? And they're like, oh, there's nothing you can do about that. That's performance enhancing drugs. Nothing you can do. And I'm just like, oh, shucks. But that was like, I was feeling like low testosterone is like you're hormonal, you're menopausal, you're like, it's like, it's like your hormones are messed up. Right. It creates
imbalance, hormone imbalance.
Very, it can really, really impact how you operate and how you function. And I would be busting my ass in the weight room, working my ass off at practice, go home, eat a good meal, and be like, I got to catch up and recover. I could sleep 12 hours and wake up and feel like I didn't go to bed.
Yeah.
And actually sleep and feel like I got no recovery, feel like I got hit by a bus. Yeah. And I had this mental fog, and I was just grumpy. I ended up getting a prescription for Adderall to kind of like put a Band-Aid on what that was doing to my mental fog. But then, so then I get, the Panthers cut me after training camp in 2008, mm-hmm. and I'm on the streets for a week, and then I sign with the Dolphins. Mm-hmm. And I'm still feeling just like, man. And so I'm there, and I'm also like, my weight's starting to go up, like not muscle wise. Like I got up to like 320, and it was like really affecting how I could barely move. I was there 7 games, got cut. And then the Bengals picked me up. And just for the last few games of the season, maybe half of a season, I'm with the Bengals. But that next offseason, and every offseason, I would go out to Arizona and just fully focus on going all in and training with my trainer to get in the best shape of my life. Yeah. Every day was every offseason was like a before and after transformation, mm-hmm. right? Where we just all the food I was medicating myself with in the season, I would focus on getting it off, getting it shredded, and coming back ready to go. And some teams saw that as like me being too small sometimes when I would come back. But that off season, this ends up being like the 2009, coming up to the 2009 season. I was reading this article about Manny Ramirez, the baseball player.
Right.
And Manny had just got popped with a 50-game suspension for a banned substance. Mm-hmm. And in the article, it said what it was. It was human chorionic gonadotropin. It's HCG. And then I'm reading the article, and at the bottom of it, it says, if players have a medical need for this, then they're allowed to get a therapeutic use exemption for it. And I was like, wait a minute. If they can do it, why can't we do it? Right? So I don't go through a team this time. I find out who's in charge of all this. And it's a guy named Dr. John Lombardo, who is the independent administrator for the performance enhancing drugs program in the NFL. He's like the one that makes all the decisions. He's the ones that will send the FedEx and let you know that you got a positive test and all that stuff. And I was like, how does this work? I've got low testosterone. I've got a few years of blood labs to show the trends. And what does this look like? My doctor told me HCG would fix this. And he says, he presents me with this process of how you're supposed to go about it. And it was like, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to get 5 blood draws in a row once a week. You're going to see an endocrinologist. And then there's me and one other person who are going to give you a thumbs up or a thumbs down. If you get approved, then you get an exemption for the season. Okay. I got approved for it. And I started taking it, and this
is I didn't know this was a process.
No one knows. And it's a can. I mean, I think it's a can of worms the NFL doesn't even want to talk about, because you got it. Because I firmly believe. Okay, so the diagnosis from the endocrinologist is idiopathic hypogonadism. Yeah. Okay, idiopathic means no known cause. Okay, I'm pretty damn sure that it's from banging my head into people. Okay. And I had guys that I play with who I knew had low testosterone. And I'm like, I went through this process. You might want to try it. I don't know anyone else Dr. Lombardo told me, I remember at one time, I forgot when he told me, that I was the only one in the NFL that had a therapeutic use exemption for something that could correct testosterone. Right. Wow. And you didn't know this was a process, right? You played in the NFL. Yeah. They don't, and the Panthers training staff told me I couldn't do anything about it. Like, it's like a hidden protocol, a hidden process.
Right. Well, and I can also understand it, because it's guys have used it to not for correcting a medical issue. It's been used to, enhance their performance.
Absolutely.
So I understand the process, and but
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, but like, it's just like the way that I was monitoring my own variables and my own health. I'm pretty sure that they're trying to just have some plausible deniability by not looking at those numbers, when those are very, very important factors. If I was a GM, or a scout or whatever, I would gather exponentially more data than everyone else is gathering. Right? I can watch you on the field. I can talk to you in person. I can see you work out. But if I'm not looking at, the type of fuel that's in your body or how it's performing, this is so important.
Yeah.
It's variables that are so important, and it's not just to performance, but like to these people's like livelihood, their health,
right,
how they're feeling,
right.
how.
But again, that goes back to your self-awareness. You had enough self-awareness and was around a guy who was exposing you to understanding
I was lucky.
Your body.
Yes, I was.
So a lot of us just don't understand, all these. We just feel a certain way, but we don't know what the cause.
Exactly.
And then you can go talk to a lot of different people, but if you're not getting the right exposure, then you don't know what to do. And so then it becomes a issue where guys end up using stuff that they're not supposed to.
Yeah.
And it causes an issue.
Exactly. And it could have been guys who needed to use it too, and they maybe weren't aware of it, or just were trying to instinctively solve an issue. Yeah. But there's this, and that's just because of the I'm not going to say disinformation, but like this,
it's a double-edged sword.
It should, but it's a double-edged sword, but it's also like why is it hidden? Why is it not like? Why is there not? We get all these handbooks and all these letters and the CBA and all this stuff. Why is it just? Why is that process not revealed?
Yeah,
it's so important.
Yeah.
So anyway, I did the whole thing myself. Right. I wasn't like going through the team or anything like that. It was me going straight to that doctor and being like, we're fixing this.
Yeah.
And I even changed the entire, like over the course of the next few years, I changed the literal process for which they did it. Because so that 2009 season, I started taking that stuff in June. My testosterone goes straight back to normal. And I'm starting to get my results back, like my recovery back, and the emotions are regulating, and the mental fog is gone. And after having been in the gutter for like 3 years, it's like almost like that concept of what I was talking about, how you work so long go to school so long, and then you get to do what you want for a day. Like how fun that is.
Yeah.
After just being in this mental fog for so long and having it lifted, I was on cloud nine. I was just so grateful to be able to be myself again. After not knowing why I was not myself, and being so confused, and the shame that goes along with not performing, and all these expectations that I had on myself. Yeah. So after that season, that part of their process is, all right, we're going to cycle you off of it now, and we're going to make sure you still need it. Right. So they have this process where it's like, you got to get off. I forgot how many weeks it was. You have to get off of it. Yeah. And when you're on something like that and you already have a problem, you're on something like that and you take it away because your body was expecting it and already not producing it. It's not just going to wake up and start doing it again. Right. So I went straight back. It might've been even worse. I was an absolute head case. Just not even knowing why. I was just.
Did that not just affect your own field play? How did it affect relationships? Were you married at the time?
I had a girlfriend. I was a tyrant. That poor girl that I was with, had to deal with the worst version of me. Yeah, it was crazy because I was emotionally I was a toddler. I didn't know what was going on. Yeah. I was reactive to everything. I was a grumpy old man. It was a crazy grumpy old man who's trying to perform and trying to work out and all this stuff. So this is the off season. So 2010, I'm cycling off of it. And later that year, even from there, it was I think that 2010 season, I strained my calf, popped my calf running, probably because, I'm just not recovering or anything. I was hurt. It was a terrible season for me. I had started 7 games in 2009 before I got a ankle sprain. I played really well. I was coming into my own. Paul Alexander was an offensive line coach who knew how to teach me good.
Cincinnati guy, man.
Yeah,
he was one of my favorite guys.
He was awesome because he knew how to teach technique and he knew how to talk to everybody.
Yes.
He didn't talk to everybody the same way. He met people where they were at.
And I thought I was going to Cincy that same year. Thought I was going to Cincy, and he was one of the biggest reasons why I was excited to go to Cincy because you could tell he knew how to get the best out of you, knew how to talk to you. And all of the guys, every guy I met, they couldn't say nothing but great things about him. So
yeah, he was.
You want to talk about
composure?
You had an OG.
You talk about composure? That man had composure. He knew, he didn't take anything personally. We had some people that would we had some, emotional talk. You can expect that. There's a lot of people who are emotionally immature in the NFL, and there were people that would talk to him crazy, get mad at him, and he would take it with grace and give the best response possible. Yeah. And he just knew how to talk to people. Yeah. He knew how to find out where to meet that person intellectually, but also technically on the field, because not everyone does the same technique. It's not a one size fits all thing. Yeah. What one player can do well, another player might not do well at all, but there's something that is just as good in the same situation if you know how to apply it to that person. Right. And Paul knew how to do that. Yeah. And he was awesome. Yeah. He was really good for my career.
Once you kind of got through that process and once you got everything stable, then your career shifts from being a journeyman to being an all-pro guard. You equate that to all that self-awareness, all that research to say, I'm finally at a place where I got all my fall gone and now I can go out and perform at my optimal.
Well, that 2010 season, they took that therapeutic use exemption away from me. And that season was a terrible season. I barely played at all, but I still had some of that stuff left over. I had, maybe 2 shots of it. Yeah. And I took it one day just because I wanted to feel normal again. And then I go into work one day. It's hey, you got a random jerk test. This is 47 hours after I had taken it. Wow. So I'm doing all this research. I'm in the sauna for ever, drinking I'm trying to flush it out or whatever. And then next thing you know, a few weeks later, I get that FedEx. You've tested positive for a banned substance. You will be subject to 4-game suspension, blah, 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 blah. I emailed Dr. Lombardo. I was like, no, this is no, this isn't right. I need this. This isn't right. I'm challenging you on this. This isn't how it's going to be. And I challenged him on it and changed the whole process for which how they were doing it at the time. I don't even know what the process is now. They don't tell anybody. I don't think they tell anybody. But this time it was okay, you go see it was okay, go get 5 blood draws again with a Cincinnati endocrinologist. I got 5. I was in the 200s every time. Then after the season, it was like, okay, we're going to give you 2 of the best endocrinologists in the country, and you get to pick which one you want to go to.
Yep.
And we're going to do this process again. And I went to see Dr. Alan Dawkin, University of Virginia. This man was great. He was great. He was totally on my side, looking at all the numbers and the data and everything, and seeing how ridiculous the NFL system was. And I got it back, and I got it back. And so now I have it back. It's the lockout year. So it was post 2010 season, right? Yeah. So I got my exemption back like right after the season. I think I got approved like last game of the season, and I was ready to go. And so it's the lockout. I have no team. I got my exemption back, and my back's against the wall, right? You talk about being a journeyman for someone who has such high expectations of themselves. I hadn't done anything. Yeah. I haven't done anything. Like I was even scared to say I played football. To all people, I was a security guard or something. I'm like, I've done nothing. Just being in the NFL meant nothing to me. Like I wasn't proud of myself. And so my back was against the wall. I was like, it's now or never. So I put in 28 straight weeks in the offseason of just like getting in the best shape of my life. Yeah. And my trainer, Garrett Shanoski, he pushed me. He was like just a genius with my program and my diet and everything. And we just did the damn thing. And then the lockout's over, and my Rosenhaus was my agent. And, like wondering what's going to happen. I'm hoping people are looking at that game tape from 2 years ago instead of seeing how terrible I was last year without even playing. And he's like, Evan, we got one offer. It's a 1-year minimum from the Eagles. I'm like, oh, okay. And then I start looking into like the Eagles situation. I look at their O-line. I see there's some opportunity. Andy Reid obviously is a phenomenal coach. But one of the biggest things and it's not like I had a choice here. This is just me like assessing what I'm going into, right? Andy had just talked Howard Mudd, who was already a Hall of Fame offensive line coach out of retirement. Yeah. And Howard prefers like quicker, smaller, aggressive linemen because his techniques were more like in pass pro, a lot of people teach setback. Right. He's like, go get the fucker. Yeah. That's his thing. Go get the fucker. I was like, that was fit my style so well. So that was the same year, Jason Kels was a rookie then. And Jason came in and I think he won the start. They just threw him at starter like pretty early. Yeah. Like they saw it in him. Right. Jason was a 6th-round pick, small. Yeah. Small, smart. They're like, Howard saw it right away. Put him in there. And I think it was
because he coached a guy in Jeff Saturday with the Colts.
Exactly.
So, he knows.
He knows.
Smart guys.
Smart, intelligent. Size, whatever, as an athlete, can figure this out, right? Can drive the offensive line, right? Because Jason, one thing about Jason was like he could just see the whole field better than anyone, the whole time. Like I would get out there and think too much if I was trying to look at like safety rotation or position or that. I'd be like, Jason, what do I do here? And he's just like, and he was directing traffic. He was great for that. Yeah. And Jason Peters would be doing that to me, and sometimes I'd be like, our communication was sometimes it had to evolve. Yeah. It got there, but it had to evolve. But anyway, I got the starting job at like 3rd or 4th preseason game, and that's when it all just clicked. Right, that's when like I was there. I was in the zone. Like I found my zone. Like and the technique that I got from Howard, being in the best shape of my life, communicating real well with my offensive line. It just. That year, Pro Football Focus had me the #1 guard that year. I go from a journeyman nobody to being rated the #1 guard. Yeah. And Pro Football Focus was like really just kind of coming out at the time, and not many people knew who they were. But it was like one of the reasons that teams were starting to pay attention to more data. But yeah, so then I was a free agent because that was a 1-year minimum. I was a free agent, and then it was just Baltimore and Philly offering me after that, and that's a whole story in and of itself. But I was like, I had loyalty to the Eagles because I appreciate everything. When I first got to training camp, I'm just I'm in my best shape of my life, and I'm ready to go. I'm ready to just crush. Howie Roseman walks up to me and he's like, "You gonna make me look smart?" And I said verbatim, I said, "I'm gonna make you look like a motherfucking genius." And that's how confident I was in what I was about to do because I had to. It was time. It was time to do it. Yeah. And I'm very grateful that I found that zone. And was finally able to like rise up to the version of myself that I always had dreamed myself of being. Yeah. And it took, it was a long road there. 6 years of just, nah.
But the tenacity
That's why, I mean, that's one thing about me is I just don't stop.
Perseverance.
I'm relentless. Yeah. That's one thing about me. Like, and that's another thing, like when it comes to like how I was talking about not making decisions when you can get tired, you can get upset, and you can get all that. Stop thinking at that moment and focus on doing what you got to do to get your brain back, like to get your rest.
Yeah.
And become self-aware and get your composure back, and then decide if you want to quit or whatever it is.
Make a decision.
Yeah. Make a decision, right? That's where I wake up at, once I'm rested, it's like, oh, I forgot. I can't stop.
When you start thinking about, that journey and where you've gotten to, it's really impressive, and before I can get into a couple more questions, that we're going to kind of do one of my favorite segments is we do a 2-minute right before, we do 2 minute like you're going into halftime. And it's just some easy, soft talk questions as we've been asking you a bunch of hard things. So here we go. And these will be rapid fire. You can elaborate a little bit, but not too long.
That's a good boundary for me.
Best player you ever lined up against?
Aaron Donald.
Enough said. Funniest teammate?
LaShawn McCoy.
I'm going to come back to that. If you didn't play football, what would have been your journey?
So I said, what would have been my journey? That's hard to say. Early on, like ninth grade or so, before I was saying like either a psychologist or a football player. Okay. When I went to Alabama, I did not choose a major to focus on. I chose marketing. I just chose something that was easy because I was set on playing football. So I don't know what my journey would have been. I would have found something and gone relentlessly into it. Learned all the lessons I had. Probably crashed and burned a few times. Yeah. Maybe figure out I didn't like it. Pivot to something else. Yeah. Maybe something with computers. Like that's where I am now. It's like you put me in front of a computer. I can just architect all kinds of things and really enjoy doing it.
I'm going to have to put you to work on that.
I'll show you some things.
Last question. What was your favorite cheat meal after a win?
Man, I was always cheat meeling. I was undersized. It was cool. That was what's great about being like an undersized offensive lineman is like I had to keep my weight on. That's a good question though. I mean, I was eating everything. My favorite one though, after a game, I don't even know. I mean, I eat everything.
I love it.
It's hard to say because like literally it would be like I would convince myself this is great for me. My body needs all of this recovery. I'm gonna eat whatever I want, and I would do that. I would embody that, and I still do that. I will eat whatever I want, but just in moderation. Right?
Spoken like a true lineman. I love it. All right, we're gonna jump back in. A couple more questions for you as you start thinking. You go through. You find your mojo. You figure things out. You go on. You guys win a Super Bowl with Denver. Now you start to sit at a place where you started thinking about what does that transition look like? You played for 12 years. Now I got to transition out. I got all these hard lessons. The transition is difficult. It's difficult for even the guy who has exactly what they want to do, because you've been a lot of years.
Wasn't for me.
Playing ball. And so
I had an easy one.
So take
I'll tell you why.
I'll tell you why. Mind of that.
I'll tell you why, because it kind of overlapped. Okay. So when I signed my big contract with the Eagles after that 2012, it's the first time I ever really had money. Yeah. Like money that I wanted. Right. Yeah. First thing I started doing, this is the inner child of me just ready to play. I had previous years I had blown my money on nice cars and Escalades on 30s and systems and all that stuff. But
you got to send me a picture of one of your Escalades.
I need to find that one because I love telling that story. It had a train horn on it.
Yeah, you guys send me a picture.
I went all out on it. I used to love doing that stuff. I still would if I had any money, but one day. So the transition for me, the first thing I started buying when I got that big contract was high grade Hall of Fame rookie baseball cards. Mm. Okay. They had historically always outperformed the S&P 500, and the supply and demand of high grade versions of most of those, it's just like, you can count them.
What do you mean by high grade?
So in the trading card industry, there's third party graders, and some of them are more of a gold standard than others.
Gotcha.
But you get a card, you send it to the third party grader.
I was thinking about the quality of it. It's like flimsy, or is it like?
Well, it is effectively the quality. They're looking at the edges, the surface, the printing, the corners, like the condition overall of the card. So there's a lot of factors that go into it, but basically it's a score of 1 to 10.
Yeah,
and so the ones that were like, these cards that are like from the 50s and 60s, to find them in very high grade was very rare. So I started putting my money into some of those things. And then I start like really getting into the industry. And this is another thing where it's about exposure, right? So as I come in and start buying these big cards, the high end dealers, like the successful dealers, they start, it's like sharks with blood in the water start coming around like, hey, look what I got. You want to buy this? You want to buy that? And I'm kind of like sitting back and observing, like I'm starting to see like some of these guys are loaded, absolutely loaded, like houses bigger than ours, and just like, what is going on here? What is the angle in this game? And so I just started learning more and more about the industry and how it works, and immersed myself in it and learned more and more and more. And then in 2013, 2014, I partner up with a guy and we start like a trading card business, to where we're like doing buying and selling and getting stuff graded and selling it. And I mean, the amount of money you can make in that industry when you know what you're doing is a lot.
Yeah.
And so I liked, like, the more money we spent, the more money we made. Like, because the more it's a lot of inventory you got to turn through and a lot of work you got to do to get it all done. But whatever you spend, you're going to get you're going to get big returns on it. Like,
what was your biggest and most prized possession?
I had a 52 Topps Mickey Mantle. That's the first Topps Mickey Mantle. His rookie year was 51, but the 52 Topps Mickey Mantle is like one of the holy grails. I think there's three that are graded PSA 10 out there, and there's 6 PSA 9s. Mm-hmm. Those 10s right now, there's no way you can get your hands on a 10 because the people that own them don't need money, and they want their card.
Right.
The 9s, they don't trade hands ever hardly. But one day, a guy I know in the industry sent me a picture of one he bought, and I was just like salivating. And I ended up, this was 2016. I was just about to sign my contract with the Cardinals. And I'm in the middle of getting offered this card. So much to the point where I take the Cardinals offer and I'm like, hey, I need you to move $500,000 of that salary into my signing bonus, and I'll do it. Because I was putting together a big trade and payment plan for this card that I paid $2.9 million for.
Oh, wow. $2.9 million for a card.
For a card.
Wow.
And now I'm sitting here with like, okay, so my net worth at the time, it might have been like, I don't know, 7 or 8 million. I got over half of my net worth in 2 pieces of cardboard of the same player.
Wow.
And I'm just like, this is I don't know what's going on here. Is this smart or what? Like, because it was kind of like, I got to have it. And then you get it and you're like, okay, I got it. But what's this doing for me? All right. I already said 2016 was going to be my last year. Yeah. And I was in great shape going into the season. I was like, I'm going to finish this season. I want to be an all-pro and quit on top. That's what I want to do because I'm done with football. And with the Cardinals, I'm in there. I'm feeling great. And then I get like Alan Branch from the Patriots falls on my foot, and I get a midfoot sprain. Yeah. And you're supposed to be out 2 to 4 weeks, and I just kept playing. And then it like parlayed into turf toe. The big toe, the great toe sprain. Terrible. And then it had me like, so then I'm so stupid. I just keep playing. I'm like, you can't stop me. I'm going to keep playing. So now like I tilt my foot out like that to kind of take pressure off of it. And that's how I'm running. That's how I'm walking. That's called an antalgic gait. And doing that puts so much pressure on the medial malleus here that it got a stress fracture. Ooh. And it cracked. And basically that was like my 6th game or something like of that season. And it was like, yeah, you got to get a plate and 4 screws in here. So right then it's like, I'm done. I kind of turned into this thing where it was like, it wasn't like a woe is me. It was like, my wife at the time, we went out for a celebratory dinner. It was like, we're done. Yeah. We did it. It's over. And so now I'm like, all right, now this card business, now it's going to get some more of my energy instead of just my business partner.
Right.
And I go in there and I'm ready to scale this thing, spend more money, get to work, working because I go all into things. That's what I do. It was something I was really passionate about, and I could have fun doing it. I could isolate myself, listen to music, listen to podcasts. My kids could be in the room hanging out, and I could just be sitting there To me, it's just, preparing grading orders or organizing cards to where they're going to be sold. And it's all behind the scenes stuff, right? You're building packages to go get graded. Once they come back, you sort them and send them off to people who are going to sell them for you.
Right.
It's just like turn and burn. And I had a lot of fun in that industry. And then that led into, one day I was sitting there, I was like, kind of how all this research you have to do. I'm like, I wish I had an app that could just identify the card, tell me what it's worth, and then tell me the condition, and I can make a decision based on that. So I created this app called Card Seer, and I never even got it launched because I started a tech company, a software development company, knowing nothing about software development. And I hired a bunch of US-based workers without knowing how to vet them. And it's in the pandemic, and we're all working remote. So I'm just like spending like $200,000 a month getting something built, never knowing when it's going to be done, and not knowing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But I learned along the way. Now I know everything about it, right? So, and it helped me like evolve the vision into something that would be like much more scalable. That's a whole nother conversation because it would take another.
And now you're into your fun, happy stage of a cookie company.
That's part of it. Yeah. So Pink Door Cookies in 2020, when I started the software development company, which kind of like is like how it kind of can serve as like a parent company because it's there to provide infrastructure and organization. And so I met this founder of this cookie company during the pandemic. He started selling cookies out of his house, 2 flavors on the weekends, advertise it on Instagram. And you would like, Venmo him and go, he would put them outside his door the next day, and his door had a pink door, and he called it Pink Door Cookies. And I had them a few times, and I was like, what? I could not believe how good they were. But anyway, I approached them, and I was like, hey, can I buy half your company and help you run it and like just let you do what you do? Like you just create cool stuff, and we'll figure out a system around you to make it scalable. So in that, here comes more exposure stuff. Like I start learning so much more things that I need to learn. So much more things that I need to organize. And it all goes into like what I'm doing now with software. It's like all about systems design. Make everything as efficient as possible as you can. Look at all the data, connect all the data, automate all the data, and also organize your standard operating procedures in a way that is very easy for every single person in the company to understand.
Do it, right?
Yeah. So we're still doing that. That's what we're in the middle of right now.
Man, it's so fascinating. So many different things I want to go to, but we're coming up on time. My last couple of questions for you, as you think back to your journey, what piece of advice do you have for a young athlete who's coming through with more pressure? You talk about the pressure and like the shame you had around, not performing, not even wanting to tell anybody you played in the NFL. What piece of advice for a young athlete do you have for him to balance and handle all the things that's coming at them, especially with NIL, transfer portal, social media, constantly having to do out there. So many variables for them. What do you have for them and maybe a parent?
If I'm going to be just honestly totally transparent here, I'm just going to, make sure that make sure the sport is what you want to do with your life. Yeah. Because to do it and be successful at it will create huge imbalances in your life. You are sacrificing so many things. There's so many people out there who could have been better than me and you at football that didn't fit into the right situation or had one thing happen and it ended it all.
Right.
Okay. So like is being present in the process, embodying the process, not putting your happiness and your mental health contingent on the outcome. Knowing you gave it your best, knowing you enjoyed it along the way.
All right. My last question for you. Again, one of my favorites to end on. And I think you probably answered this throughout this podcast, but when you think back again on your journey and where you're going, what are those intangibles that have made you who you are, that has carried you, but also still carrying you?
My relentlessness has always been the thing. Like it's almost to a fault at times, to where, I don't know if it's to a fault, but it's like, all right, I'm going to keep going no matter what. Self-love first is important. That's another thing. Like, it's like, you can't share anything with the world really until you fill your own cup. And you got to be okay with yourself in that, right? And not seek external validation.
Right.
Find that inside yourself first. Need nobody. Because once you need nobody, you'll have everybody.
You can help everybody.
You can help everybody. Yeah. And you're not going to be that. I mean, you're going to find more people that have their cup filled,
right,
and attract those. And then it's like people who are like unshakable, really. Yeah. Once you fill your cup runneth over. You know, and it's just like, hey, let's have fun. Let's share the world with each other.
Well, Evan, man, this has been fun. You know, it's been, you know, we've known each other for a long time. To get to sit down and like really dive into your journey, hear your journey. You know, you hear all the hardship, you hear all the excitement, the reward on the other side of it. You see the self-awareness, the growth, and you still hear the passion in your voice, man. You still hear that. You still hear that young child who is.
No, man, that's what I mean. I'm more passionate now than I've ever been.
Ready for the world.
I keep doing things that I love. Like, and the people I'm surrounded with, I'm blessed, man.
Yeah, it's been awesome, man. Really appreciate you joining the podcast.
Pleasure to be here, brother.
Yeah.